12:04. The meeting call at 12:04. I'll be kind of like, temporarily chairing the meeting, being that we have no civil service board at this point in time, that's no members actually, and going over some of the process that we need to do and things that need to happen. But I think that, do they start a civil service board with a pledge of allegiance or anything like that? Do we know?
No.
No, right?
I mean, this is fairly informal. I do the same thing frequently if the chair or, the chair of my city committees isn't available and you don't have a vice chair selected just for the sake of keeping things going. And it's not like there's no decisions that are going to be made.
No, none. I
Right,
can't
like
make
you
any
said, this
decisions
is
now.
just fairly informal. Everyone's getting to know everyone. So-
Right. Okay, sounds good. We'll do it that way, but let's start. Sheriff, you want to start? We'll introduce ourselves so that everybody here knows who we are. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Steve Sherrick. I'm Fire Chief of Clatskanie Fire District. Clatskanie. We have about a dozen employees, firefighter, paramedic, from the fire and EMS service.
Josh Marks, I'm Division Chief at Scappoose Fire District. We have 15 line personnel between them for firefighters. I have been involved in the civil service process since around 2005, when I became one of the union shop stewards for Scappoose. I've been deeply involved in it through testing processes and everything else.
Go ahead, Tim.
I'm Tammy Armitrout, and I am not on fire, so I'm volunteering. I'm a paralegal. I work downtown Portland. That's what I do on the north.
Well, thank you, Tammy, for coming out here.
Yeah.
Mohammed?
Mohammed Zayer, City of St. Helens Public Works Director. I really appreciate the opportunity. I know Chief Medina and met a few folks from CRFR already, and we come across a lot of services together. And again, honored to be asked to come and join and support in any way I can. Great, thank you.
William Scott Jorgensen, for my day job, I'm the city administrator over in Rainier. Civil service.
Chief Examiner.
Yeah. So, I'm the professional bureaucrat here. To look over the rules and to make sure that we follow the rules. But I'm also, I worked in the legislature for years. If the rules aren't working for you, you can change the rules. And, going through all of this, I think we're gonna have to do.
Yeah, we're gonna be making some adjustments and some changes, but that we have to do a later date. Go ahead. Jimmy.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jimmy Sanchez, Division Chief of Finance and Logistics here now. I was recently hired working alongside these wonderful gentlemen over here and looking forward to helping out any way I can and enjoying this new process as we start this. So it's nice to meet you.
So actually, in 5 days, I will be the fire chief for 2 years. So I'm into my 3rd year already. Yeah, it's gone by quick. Columbia River Fire and Rescue is the parent agency for this civil service board. As part of the civil service board, as part of the rules of the civil service board, it says if you have, Oregon State statutes identifies that if you have more than 3 employees, you have to have a structured civil service board that has certain regimented procedural things that are recorded and maintained. As a parent agency, there's certain things that Columbia River is pretty much in charge of. And part of that is supplying pretty much the secretary or the custodial of record. You're gonna be meeting the custodial of record right now. We're working together to try to kind of like just affirm where we are, what it is we're doing. To have a quorum, we have to have 2 people. Out of the 3 of you, 2 of them have to be here. So right now we have a quorum. We'll reach out to the 3rd. Might have been a miscommunication or find out what's going on, but that's about it. Chief.
Good afternoon, Eric Smythe, Deputy Fire Chief, Columbia Fire and Rescue. Look forward to our new commissioners and moving our process forward. We can, like most of the fire departments in the county are looking for people to hire, so we get this process going. So we can find some folks to fill some vacancies we have. So thank you guys for volunteering.
Okay, so if everybody would have turned to page 5, rule 4. Pretty much this is one I kind of want to go over, is the organizational duties and authority. Okay, and this is gonna be kind of a boring kind of read, but obviously the civil service system is composed of the commission of 3 members, the chief examiner, and such assistance as may be necessary. All of the chief examiners shall be subject to review and approval or dismissal of the commission. That's section 1. Section 2 says, the commission shall elect a chairperson at the first meeting of each calendar year, or may choose to allow the election of the current chairperson to continue without specific duration. Section 3 is the appointment of members of the commission. The board of directors for Columbia River Fire and Rescue shall appoint 3 members to serve as a civil service commission. The Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors shall solicit input, including interest and potential commissions from the member districts when filing any vacancy on the commission. Commissioners shall serve without compensation. Appointments shall be staggered to vary to the end of the term date. Now, that's one of the things I want to talk about is section 3, is that the reason that they're staggered is so at no point in time do you have 2 people that are up for appointment at the same time. So what we did is we have a cup here with 3 pieces of paper in it. A number 2, a number 3, or a number 4. And I haven't talked about this with our chief examiner, but this is the way it's kind of gonna be. So you're gonna draw lots. So your initial term will either be 2, 3, or 4 years. Subsequently after that, it'll be 4. The issue with that is that having to be that one commissioner will end up serving 6 years, 1 7 years, and 1 8 years. So that no 2 commissioners are expired terms running at the same time. Scott, as the chief examiner, is drawing lots for the initial appointment, okay with, basically it's okay with you?
Rock, paper, scissors is also acceptable?
Yeah, right. So we'll go ahead and do that. So
It doesn't say, it doesn't prescribe anything.
no, it doesn't, that's the thing, I don't, and that's the thing, there's a lot of things in the Civil Service Board that really isn't really addressed. And we're probably gonna be looking to clean this up as with the first meeting. You wanna draw the first one?
Sure.
Yeah, you can open that one up. 3. So you will be going for an initial term of 3 years. Because we have to, we're gonna present this as such to my board on Tuesday. Tammy, you wanna draw one here?
Sure, I'm sorry, I was just gonna be nice and take whatever was left.
Okay, you can open that one up.
2.
Okay, so you will be 2 years.
Okay.
So that means that the third person will be 4. Okay, we're making that as an item of record so that we can identify how the terms will lay out. Any objections, Scott, with that, or are we good to go? So that's how it'll be presented by resolution to our fire board. Okay, next, as we go down, the term of office we've gone, the qualifications of commissioners. It says that no member of the commission shall be a member of any member district governing body. And then, I mean, I have to ask a question, even though I know the answer. Are any of you a member of any member district or governing body? No. Right, I knew that. You're not a volunteer or an employee of either Classical Knights, Scappoose, or Columbia River. An employee is identified as somebody who is paid and compensated for their service. So neither one of you are volunteer firefighters or employees of any of these 3 districts.
No.
Right. Subject to the civil service or be immediately related to any employee means that you're related to somebody who actually is a paid member of any of the districts. And you're not. Because, I mean, it doesn't work out that way. We identified with, we spoke about this with the chief examiner's office, just for transparencies, is that one of the board members is a spouse of somebody on the Columbia River Fire Rescue Board. However, the rule number 5 identifies that it has to be an employee, and the board members are not employees of the fire district. Therefore, there's no conflict there. Is that correct, Scott? Would you agree with that?
There's also a difference between related and married to.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about same household, it doesn't say.
Right, so because of that, and so that's how we moved on there. Okay, so rule B for qualifications is commissioners may serve as commissioners for any civil service commission, so that you know that you can serve for other civil service commissions. Persons appointed shall be known to believe in the principles of the civil service. And of course, and this is just for affirmation, and I'm sure you will, do you acknowledge that you believe in the principles of civil service?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The commissioners must reside within the geographical boundaries of the member district. Now, this is where we're gonna be making a change, and we progress that. And the change that's gonna happen to D, and is gonna be this: commissioners must reside or work within the geographical boundaries of the member district. Now, here's what happens, is that we can't actually vote on that one until after I get the final appointment on Tuesday. But for transparency, they're just giving everybody a heads up as to where we're going in that declaration. And that, now the purpose of which is to open up cast a broader net to be able to give opportunities to individuals that either reside within the district or work within the district. Is there any objection? Do you see any from the chief examiner's position? Is there a reason why that should be a conflict? Scott?
No, I'd sent over a memo a few weeks ago and talked about this. There's a housing crisis going on in Oregon, and especially in this area, right? I mean, I work at Rainier. I spent the first year plus commuting from Lake Oswego. That was awful. And it wasn't that I didn't want to work in the area, it's that I couldn't, you know, and the cities talk to each other. And like in Warrenton, for example, I mean, they couldn't get a city manager. High level 6-figure positions go unfilled because there's nowhere for people to live. That's just the reality.
Right, so that actual clause was already waived by the Civil Service Board, the ex-Civil Service Board, for the appointment of our chief examiner. It just never got transcribed into writing. So that's what we're in the process of doing. Scott Jorgensen has served as a chief examiner of us since April of last year, right? No, April of this year. April of 2020. So obviously the intent was to make those adjustments. We just never had the opportunity to solidify that. And that's just a declaration there. So with that being said, that all commissioners must reside or work within the geographical boundaries of the member district, then the question would have to be, and I need a verbal affirmation. Do you two work or reside within the districts of Columbia River, Clastonite, or Scappoose? Okay, so there it is. And then the step E is commissioners must be citizens of the United States and must be qualified to vote in Columbia County. Now, that's one of the things that needs to be adjusted also, because if you don't live in Columbia County, you can't necessarily vote in Columbia County. Okay, so that goes along with Rule 4, Section 5, subsection D, where the adjustments a correction needs to make, where it says the commissioners must be a citizen of the United States, okay, and the must be qualified to vote in Columbia County will be struck.
Or you could replace it or add to it, or a county immediately bordering it.
I really don't want to handcuff us to the how about if we say vote in the United States, because if you can vote in the United States, then you're a citizen. Eligible to vote in the United States. Any objections to that? Okay, so eligible to vote in the US. And I believe the intent of that is to further identify that you're a citizen, because really only citizens can vote.
There's a big push to change that though. So I don't know if you want to put that in there because Multnomah County has put multiple initiatives on their ballots.
About not having lived in the county to vote. And again,
Non-citizens.
For non-citizens to be able to. vote.
all right, okay, so let's,
They can't vote in federal, they're not gonna be able to vote for,
Correct, but
they can vote local.
but they can still vote. So.
yeah, that's true. So then let's just strike it together and let's just say that commissioners must be citizens of the United States. Fair enough? Okay, we acknowledge the statement made by my colleague from Scappoose. He's absolutely right. And just to avoid clarity once and for all, what we will be striking is and must be qualified to vote in Columbia County. So it'll just say commissioners must be citizens of the United States. Any questions from the tentative board members, from the chief examiner, or from the other two districts that are represented?
The idea is to open up avenues for participation and make it easier.
Yes,
They've got to
Yeah,
accomplish that goal.
that's the goal. The meetings should be held every 90 days. If you see section 6 covers that the commission shall meet as needed to conduct its business, but shall meet at least every 90 days. Provided a quorum is available to provide, there are discussion items on for the agenda. If a quorum is unavailable at 90 days, or there are no identified discussion items for the agenda, a meeting shall be scheduled as soon as reasonable once a quorum is available and or items for the agenda discussed are identified. Special meetings may be held at such times and places as may be determined by the commission. All meetings shall be in compliance with Oregon state statutes related to public meeting laws. Now, the question that I have here is that this section 6 meetings, does not identify virtual meetings. Okay, so what I want to ask from the chief examiner is it your counsel that we should look at that and add something for virtual meetings?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then can we look for the chief examiner to again also write up and include a virtual meeting clause for rules 4, section 5, section 6, including virtual meetings and virtual meetings for special meetings. Now, once again, we did do virtual meetings last year, I think, when we were having a difficult time with the old civil service board members attending. So we did do like some virtual meetings to get some hiring lists approved. So it's not something we haven't done before. It just hasn't been affirmed in the civil service rules. Again, it's more housekeeping that we're going to be doing. Section 8, removal of the commissioners. It just outlines how we're going to be removing, how if you need to remove it, that the board of directors of the Columbia River Fire and Rescue may remove any commissioner for incompetencies, dereliction of duty, or other good cause. After giving due notice in writing of the charges against commissioners and providing the commissioner the opportunity to be heard publicly on such charges before the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors. Again, it identifies the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors because the Columbia River Fire and Rescue District is the parent agency of this civil service board. So now here's the question that I have again here for Scott when it comes to section 8. Rather than say good cause, shouldn't it be for just for cause and take out the word good? That's one of those things for clarification. That is the second line of Rule 4, Section 8, removal of commissioners, where it says dereliction of duty or good cause. Can we remove good and just go for cause?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like the good thing. That's personal. Okay, so the word
Well,
good.
it's subjective.
It is, it's completely subjective.
I mean, cause is cause.
Right, cause is cause and good is too subjective. I think we're striking it would just be the appropriate thing to do. And then it goes on to identify that the board of directors of a member district may initiate removal hearings by filing a petition for removal of a civil service board commission with the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors. Okay, so for the two member districts, which is Caboose and Class 9, you guys get that, right? You have the ability to petition the Columbia River Fire Service Board for a removal, and a copy of the charges and transcripts of the record of the hearings shall be filed with the Columbia River Fire Board of Directors, and a copy sent to the Board of Directors of each member district, each civil service commissioner, and the civil service chief examiner. Any questions about that aspect? Okay, then section C of the removal of commissioners strikes that the commissioners may resign their commission by giving written notice to the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors. Now that notification was sent via email by Jack Carter, I think it was. Jack Carter submitted the letter on behalf of Jack Graft and Chuck Whittick, identifying their intentions of all three of them resigning for personal reasons. That resignation was accepted, and that's what's led us to where we are at this point. Are there any questions about that? Okay, next. Duties and authorities of the commission. The commission shall, this is, I know we're going line by line and we're reading it just to make sure that we're all on the same page and understand what we're doing here. So the commission shall have the authority and duties to indicate the statute, ordinance, and these rules. Maintain minutes of its meeting and records of its procedure and actions, though it may do so through the office of any one of the member districts. Now, in that situation, I want to introduce to everybody Kate Leonard. Kate, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kate Leonard. I'm the custodian of records, the Columbia River Fire and Rescue.
So as a custodian of record for the Columbia River Fire Rescue, Kate Leonard will then be the one that that manages the meetings and records of its proceedings of action. Is there any questions about that? Chief Examiner, do you see any way that causes any conflicts or any problems with Rule 4, Section 9, subsection B? Okay. Be it heard that the statement from the Chief Examiner was no. Moving on, Section C, provide for competitive examination to determine the relative qualifications of persons for employment in the positions under civil service and prepared list of eligibility candidates for vacancies and to certify the same. Now, here's the thing. Oregon State statute identifies that any organization that has more than 3 employees. So if you have 3 employees, you're good. If you have more than 3, you must be part of a civil service board. Once again, this is why Claskanite and Scappoose are members, district members of this board, because they have more than 3 employees. Now, also Columbia River Fire Rescue has been approached by the fire district of Vernonia. Vernonia is now gonna break that 3 employee threshold. Therefore, they need to be part of a civil service board. I've spoken with Dean Smith and with Rob Davis, and advised them they were supposed to be.
One's sick.
Okay, so they're sick.
It's going
It's going around. But on behalf of them, they have petitioned to be members, to be district members of this civil service board. Now, I don't have any issues with that. We're gonna present that to the Columbia River Fire Rescue Board of Directors, because only they can authorize district members. However, the input from this board is taken into account. Is there any reason or any comments that anybody wants to make about not submitting a request for Vernonia to be considered for membership from Clascanite? No. Looking and seeing as an affirmation of no from Scappoose.
No.
Again, no from Columbia River. The answer would be no. So that's a unanimous vote of 3-0 from the member districts that we look to present to the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors a petition and request for Vernonia to be added as a district member with all appropriate rights and all appropriate responsibilities as associated and mentioned in the civil service systems rule and rules that was adopted, revision 7, January 22nd, 2020.
We have to discuss fee schedules, right?
What?
Fee schedules with them.
No, the current, what we can know, the current fee schedule that exists is that we can discuss over section rule 4, section 10, preparation of budget appropriations. Okay, we'll discuss that then. So we did, we're at section D of section, we're at subsection D, section 9. Herein determine appeals arising from the administration of these rules, okay? And subsection E, investigate and report on all matters relating to the enforcement and effects of these rules. That is basically the authority of the commission, and the duties and authorities of the commission. Any questions on the prospective commission members for that? Mohammed, you got anything? No question. Tammy, any questions?
Not yet.
All right, so, rule 4, section 10 identifies that the Columbia River Fire and Rescue shall budget for reasonable expenses of the civil service system, including the provision of office support staff, record storage, publication costs. Each member district will contribute a share of the cost for conducting testing processes to establish joint eligibility list as provided for in the IGA cost sharing formulas. Now, anybody seen the IGA cost sharing formulas? I have not been able to locate that.
It is in a section of the rules.
It is? Which section is that? I glanced through it and I didn't see it.
It shows the 50, 25, 25.
Yeah, 50, 25, 25, right, okay. So the reason that I wanted to bring that up, because, one of the things the recommendation that I'm gonna make to the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Board of Directors is that the cost sharing formula be amended to reflect 50% Columbia River Fire and Rescue District as a parent agency, and the additional 50% divided amongst member agencies as a generalization. So if there's 3 member agencies, it's divided equally amongst the 3. Is there any objection to that from the chief examiner from the Civil Service Systems Board? Is there any reason that we can't do that?
No, and I think it's good that you phrase it like that, divided among agencies, because it doesn't box you in, right? It gives
No,
you
it'd be
flexibility.
5 agencies.
So that way if.
Or if you drop the one,
Yeah,
right, or if you drop the 1 agency or you have 2, I think it makes it better that way. Is there any questions about that from the member district of Clascanite? Any questions? Okay, and looking and acknowledging the statement of no questions. Is there any questions from the member district of Scappoose on that? Okay. And there is no issues with the parent agency of Columbia River. So moving forward, it says individual districts shall be responsible for the cost of testing process or establishing individual lists. Member districts shall pay these costs promptly, but not before each board of directors has the opportunity to review the expenses. The governing body of each member district shall appropriate sufficient funds to carry out the program of the Civil Service Commission. Okay, Now, when I read that, that kind of, led me to other questions. Okay, so it's my understanding that the 50, 25, and 25 is divided amongst the cost for actually doing this, this, and, actually for posting on NTN, it's supposed to be divided as well, because that's a cost for posting. As I know, records show that Columbia River has been paying all the costs for it. And it has not been, broken down and invoiced to the member district of Clastonite or the member district of Scappoose. Okay, so while it says it, it hasn't been done. We're not changing it now, but come January, all costs related will be identified by the finance division of Columbia River Fire and Rescue and laid out and identified as projections to member districts Clastonite and member districts Scappoose. Any questions for billing and such should be sent in writing to the fire chief of administration and finance, which is Chief Sanchez. Any questions about that from member district Clastonite? Seeing no, any questions of that from member district Scappoose?
So we will start getting invoices again.
Yes.
If we have to store it.
Yes, like we have historically. That hasn't happened for a significant number of months, if not years, I think. But now, all of that is open for discussion because I know that Scappoose also pays a separate cost for,
We do our own for our part-time.
yeah, for the NTN for the part-time things.
Correct.
Okay, and I don't want to speak for, any members from Scappoose, but it has been communicated that Scappoose was looking to open their own NTN site. Now, if that should happen,
We have our own NTN contract. Scappoose has our own NTN contract for our part-time program.
right,
Currently, we're still in the civil service process, commission, still a member agency, the Columbia River Fire and Rescue Civil Service Commission. So we have our own contract with NTN for the part-time portion of it.
right. Well, I've spoke to NTN and they've identified that by ORS, you have to be part of a civil service system if you have more than 3 employees. But that doesn't stop you from opening your own NTN site that specifically identifies Scappoose Rural Fire District. Yes, Tammy.
What does NTN stand?
NTN stands for National Testing Network. I'm sorry, thank you for bringing that up. The National Testing Network is a network by which people can log in and do their testing for firefighter, EMT, and firefighter paramedic positions. They're the big core of the people that provide us a list of appropriate candidates that have met through their kind of testing and what kind of.
Police is the same, correct?
Yes, police do, yeah, because NTN does it for, has police and has fire. So any other questions from member district Scappoose about that?
So RS says that we have to follow the rules and regulations of the Civil Service Commission,
Right, of a civil service
which
commission.
we do with Columbia River Fire and Rescue.
Right. So as I'm saying, so the ORS identifies that you have to be part of a civil service, system, which you are. But the ORS does not say or preclude you from having your own national testing network. You understand that? Because and that's something that got clarified to us from the National Testing Network.
Correct,
You have to be part of a civil service board.
correct.
But just because that happens, it doesn't mean that you have to be part of the webpage pretty much that has the hiring, that as it is right now, it names all 3 agencies. Because you can open up your own national testing network. The thing that I'm making is that at which point in time, if you decide to do that, then the Columbia River Fire and Rescue district would need written notification that you do that, so we can remove that portion of, invoicing to you or to each member district. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. Yes, we do, correct. Absolutely, 100%. We need to be involved in a civil service commission.
Right.
Now, if Scappoose or Klask and I were to go to NTN and say we want to own, then the civil service commission that we follow would have to approve of that.
Yes.
They have to approve the testing and all that.
Yes. Yes.
So historically, what we have done is have the single list
Right.
for Columbia County Civil, or Columbia River Fire and Rescue Civil Service Commission. For the fact of, then that means Platsk and I would have to submit to the commission the testing process that they're doing. Same thing with Scappoose. That's
Right.
why we have always done it as a single entity and listed the member agencies in there to get more of a pool and to have a single point to be able to do it.
I appreciate the clarification from my colleague from Scappoose that identifies a clarification to the potential commissioners as to how we got to this process and why they're in. Yes, Danny?
I'm sorry, this is all new to me, so I'll have to ask.
No, this is great.
So why would part-time people be different from full-time people, needing a separate NTN to address that type of staff?
Chief, you want to,
Because part-time personnel are not considered civil service members.
according to Oregon state statute.
Correct. So they have to meet an hour requirement to become full-time. And the hour requirement is basically 49%. If they go over that 49% of a full-time employee, then they fall under the civil service commission.
Right.
For that aspect.
So because they don't have to be part of civil service for that aspect, they automatically just broke away and have their own like webpage to hire for those individuals.
So on the National Testing Network portion, and I can bring it up and show it to you how it all works. The previous Civil Service Commission has been, every 2 years has been given information on National Testing Network. This is the process that we have gone through to get up to hiring and putting people on our lists. Before we came onto NTN, the member agencies would put together a testing process to hire personnel and to put them on the list. And we did it in-house actually before. In about 2006 or 2007, we started contracting through National Testing Network to run the written and physical aspect of our entry tests.
And it was that was adopted by the Civil Service Board. It was their hiring procedure that was adopted by a Civil Service Board. It was 2007.
Yeah.
That we were to follow. So what the Civil Service Board does then is just certify the list pending the process. Now, since all three members are new, Columbia River Fire and Rescue will see that you get the hiring procedure of NTN for your review.
National Testing Network is a company that is used across the country that is a vetted entry testing for civil service agencies that have to go through. And they do this a vetted test to make sure that it is equal and equitable does all those things to make sure that we follow and it passes all the ORS tests.
Yeah.
And the civil service tests to make sure that it is done fair and equitable through all the different agencies.
That's like a basic arithmetic, a basic mechanical computer simulation that they have to take a test and then they.
Yeah,
get
just kind of
physical.
standardized and it's
Yeah.
fair and non-discriminatory and all that.
Yeah, the reason that the civil service thing was kind of put out like this was because at one point in time, every individual district or fire municipal agencies did their own testing. So like, I might require that you run 2 miles, but he may require that you swim 2 miles, and he may require that you climb a mountain. And what happened is that, under,
Different in Colorado.
yeah, under suit, there was actually litigation about that and identified that some of the testing procedures were biased.
Yeah.
So to prevent anything being biased, the Oregon State statute was created to identify that any more than this employees had to have a civil service board to review all that, to make sure it's not biased and that it's fair and equitable for all members trying to gain employment. Okay, so that's kind of why it's laid out and kind of why you're here and you still review the process.
Gotcha.
And that's basically what the purpose is.
Okay, so now this question.
Yeah,
For
right.
this part. I probably will have one, but so if they change their status from full-time to part-time, do they have to start all over in the system or do they?
Okay, there is a clause that was created, I believe, by Chief Greisen in the Civil Service Board that allows, if you have somebody currently employed in a part-time position or with us being in a single role position, they could transition to a full-time position because they were already considered within the system. Chief Examiner, would you agree with that statement?
Well, what the rule says is, so there is no way to go from part-time to full-time without going through the entire process.
Okay,
In the rules, it does give you the ability to, if you are a single role person that has not gone through the civil service process, there is a way after after being employed with the organization for 12 months. What you have to do is you have to submit to the organization. Say Justin is one of my single role EMTs or paramedics. So basically he drives on the ambulance and that is his sole purpose. If he wants to do the fire stuff and become a civil service employee, as long as he has been there for 12 months, he can submit to the administration and say, I want to do that. And if they have done the process portion of it, so they have taken the NTN written and physical testing, no matter where they are on the list, they can be put into that position. But the process is you have to complete all of the civil service requirements, the written and the physical testing, to be able to be on that list. And then you can be pulled, no matter where you are, to go into that. And it is basically a promotion.
okay.
Now,
I know this is like in the weeds, but.
no, this is perfect because I'm glad that he brought that up because, last year, the year before last, Columbia River Fire and Rescue approached the Civil Service Board because, finding firefighter paramedics is not an easy thing. So we approached them with the recommendation or with a request to waive the 12-month clause and waive certain clauses for people that we already had employed as single role members. Again, the Civil Service Board at that time agreed to do so, and strictly because of how difficult it was to fill positions, but it was never reflected and adopted in the civil service system's rules. So as we go through the process, that's the housekeeping that I'm talking about, is we're gonna petition the Civil Service Board once again, but this time to put it in writing to waive certain aspects of that so that we can take current employees that we already have and just kind of allow them to transfer over into a district, into a different position within the individual districts. In other words, my single role person could not go to Scappoose. But I could have a single role person go from being a paramedic or an EMT only to being a firefighter paramedic. Okay, so while that was outlined, it was never memorialized in the civil service rules.
Was that put in a meeting minutes at some point?
I believe so, yes. We had, our old financial person was still there.
Okay.
So,
Was there some significance to the 12-month period? Like, is it just random that you just?
No, it wasn't.
Time?
It
That's
wasn't.
just by statute.
It wasn't random. It was to make sure that the employee was vetted, to make sure that they could do the processes that were on there to get through probation and basically to test them out, to make sure that they could fit inside the organization.
and the argument that was made for, to augment those rules was that the FTEP, which is the field
Field training and evaluation.
evaluation program, which is the evaluation program that you go through to be qualified to be on the single roll, does not take 12 months. So long as they passed FTEP, then they would be, then there was, it just seemed redundant, which is what in fact, I presented it, which would be redundant with the 12 months. You're requiring 12 months, but all they have to do is pass FTEP to be single role. And that means they've already been vetted. And before they get hired, they have to pass a physical, they have to pass a background, and then they have to do the FTEP. And I think it was Chuck that kind of made the motion. And that's kind of how we went in that direction. But again, it was never memorialized. And we have now, that's why we're using the custodian of record from Columbia River Fire and Rescue. And now we are recording.
Yeah, we record and there's
record?
transcription as well. So.
Yeah, because that didn't exist before. So there's a lot of things that didn't get detailed annotations. But now with the recording and with the minutes, we look to improve on that. Okay, we look to improve on that. But again, this will just be, it'll just be a repetition for the board of something that was already in process. In fact, I can tell you that Columbia River Fire Rescue has moved through that. We had people on single roles, put them through the FTEP program. Once they completed the FTEP program, we opened up and allowed them to move into the, go through the fire academy again to continue being vetted by us, and then be able to move into a regular firefighter, EMT or firefighter paramedic position. In accordance with the request to adjust for that clause.
I foresee similar changes come down to the police world because of the process to get someone hired.
Oh, yeah.
It takes over a year. I mean, we struggle with that even in our city, and
Yeah,
to go through the academy, to go through that, and then the reserve program to transition to a full police officer. Similar concept. I think the United States will change moving forward because of these rules that restrict agencies from having well-qualified individuals inside.
Right.
Faster, sooner, have trouble hiring a good quality pool of, candidates, and it's a lot of issues.
Yeah, it's the same trouble you guys have in the fire world. I mean, it took us a year to fill an officer position. Your pool of applicants to begin with isn't much. And then, here's your pool of applicants. All right, well, this many could pass a written and physical test. And then this one bombs the interview, and then here's your one guy, but it takes you a year to get there.
And the whole reason that clause was included in the adoption, the revisions, was because the fire chief at the time saw a possibility of that becoming an issue. Now, none of us could have projected that the issue would be as bad as it was. So in fact, there was many decisions that got made during this last year with the old service board of like ahead of time approving rules and ahead of time approving lists and doing an approving list like over a virtual meeting or through an email affirmation that they agreed to approve the list. Because it was just by the time the list got approved, if you didn't hire somebody, they were already hired by somebody else. If you haven't seen, Tualatin Valley Fire Rescue is putting commercials on to hire people. If we don't move quickly enough, then those people, we lose good candidates that apply. So the intent was to have candidates that we already have that may have come on as single roles. Okay, that have gone through the vetted, that have gone through FTEP, that have gone through the proper education to make them qualified, just move over onto the fire side. That was the intent. And again, we're just going to be looking to formalize that in the rules and regs. Would you agree with that, Chief Examiner? I mean, it needs
Like
to
I
be.
said, I mean, you need to change the rules to adapt to your current situation, and
Right.
if all of the agencies are having a difficult time filling positions, then you need to do something different.
Because it was done verbally. And I just don't subscribe to that. It needs to be written somewhere. So then when you go back and you read it, you're like, okay, we did get a vote to allow us to do this, but it was never reflected in the civil service rules. And I'm just giving you a heads up, so it's being in the minutes so that you can see where we're gonna be going. That's why this is more of an informative affirmation type of meeting. Okay, so the next thing that we, any questions from, membership class tonight? No questions noted. Any questions from membership Scappoose
Depends on what you're talking about, questions. I mean,
about what we just talked about?
well, yeah, I mean, Rule 7 very clearly states the necessity for the year posting, right? Rule 7, Section 3, subsection D, very clearly talks about needing to be a year. And granted, I've been to a lot of these civil service meetings and I don't ever remember it being discussed to have that year requirement changed to a lower year or lower timeline. And if it were discussed at a meeting, it should have been in minutes, which I know people were there taking minutes. Your personnel, your staff were there taking minutes for those.
Yes.
And I'm not opposed to changing that. And I know Chief Pritchard's not opposed to changing that. But the fact is, the rules currently say a year. And again, I'm not opposed to changing that, and I know Chief Pritchard isn't. But the rules say one thing, and that's what the rules have to say.
No, and I understand that the rules say that. What I'm stating though, again, for transparency purposes, is that this past 2 years has been very unique to the fire service. And as such, it's not a secret or, anything else that the old civil service board made a plethora of adjustments and allowances of the rules as they are written to allow for us to be able to hire the people that we needed. I mean, that happened on multiple occasions. However, none of those things were ever memorialized and documented. This is just, to kind of like let everybody know about where we're going so that the tentative commissioners can see the history and why, and can understand why we're moving in the direction that we're moving. And again, Columbia River Fire and Rescue has been conducting business based on the acknowledgement to proceed in that manner.
Not necessarily asking to change the rules, but we're asking, that there's a process for discretionary, some discretion on how those are applied.
On how current employees are treated.
Yes, so
Yes.
so in the perfect world, without COVID and all these problems we've been having, it would be a regular course for somebody to take 12 months.
Yes,
So we're just looking at, for exigent circumstances, the commission has the discretion to grant
right.
something different to occur.
Well,
Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, that's what we're talking about. And then here's the situation too, as you understand, because during COVID and things, the ability to take the physical agility test and things like that was severely limited. And that's what led to the request being made to the Civil Service Board for certain special considerations at the time. Okay?
So the one thing that I have always preached to the civil service commissioners, even with Mr. Whittick, Mr. Graff, and Mr. Carter, is that while the Civil Service Commission can change the rules to whatever the chief examiner or the parent agency of Columbia River Fire and Rescue, they can change the rules to say whatever they want. But it needs to be pretty close to in line with ORS, I think it's ORS 264, which is civil service rules that are based on ORS. And you can change it and you can do whatever you want to do. But that opens up the civil service commissioners and the chief examiner and the board of directors and the staff of the parent organization to Oregon labor law. And if you just say, well, hell, this time we want to open it up and say that it'll only be a month that somebody has to work here, or we're going to skirt and not make people take open and competitive testing, then that opens up organizations to labor law lawsuits.
Now, let me add on that is that,
That's domestic partnership plan.
yeah,
There is, I'll give you the exact ORS.
because you,
Just off the top of my
no,
list.
but the ORS that we're discussing in topic does not, it identifies new hires, right? Or potential hires. It doesn't identify people that are already working for you. Okay, and we qualified somebody that was already working for us by somebody who received a paycheck. So if you received a paycheck and you've gone through FTEP and you've been vetted and you had your physical and you had everything else that you needed, I determined that you would be eligible as long as you met criteria and we provided you the education you needed to be able to transition to fill one of our line spots. And that's exactly how we proceeded. And we have proceeded. In fact, currently, I think we've got 6 people or 7 people, not all of them. I think we've got 3 of them we have 3 people that were single roles, got hired in that aspect, were paid as a single role, but then we moved them over along with the other 4 that came from NTN to be part of the hiring class, just to augment it because we needed the extra people. So it has happened in the past. There is a history of it, and we're just looking to memorialize it. And again, the ORS identifies, and I agree with Chief Marks, the ORS specifically does identify how the hiring process is going to come for new hires, so that all new hires are looked at and given the fair and equitable considerations, unhampered by any kind of prejudicial process. Okay, but the ORS does not identify how you handle internal candidates that are already on your department. It doesn't.
But it does, because there's a promotion in ORS 242. It's actually
You're right, but the movement from single role to fire department is not a promotion. And I cite to you our collective bargaining agreement. Does not recognize moving from single role to firefighter as a promotion at all. It's not stated there. So I don't recognize it as being a promotion. I look at it as being a lateral. It's, I mean, almost, I hate to say that because promotion and lateral have very specific ties to the under civil service rule. Okay, it's almost like saying, here's the way I look at it. You're a janitor. Okay, you've been working for this organization as a janitor, cleaning the building. Now you want to clean the pool. Okay, so you put in the move from the janitor cleaning the pool, cleaning the building, to the janitor cleaning the pool. You're already within the actual organization, so it's more of a transition rather than a lateral move or a promotional move. And that ORS does not identify for a transitional move like that. Is it rhetoric? Yes, it's rhetoric. Is it a loophole? Absolutely it is. But in these times that it's so difficult to fill positions, we need to use everything to our advantage, and there is no direct law prohibiting that from happening. There's no direct ORS that prohibits that from happening. But we'll get the ORS and we'll present it to the tentative commissioners and to the chief examiner for consideration. But I just want you to know is that all these things were discussed with the chief examiner and with the members at that time while we were going through it. We made tons of adjustments and allocations because of COVID. Any follow-up questions on this same topic from my esteemed colleague from Scappoose?
Oh, you're good.
One question I have, so these lateral versus, I mean, those are
Transitional.
that's what I'm saying, are they both union roles?
No.
Versus, you know, in our world.
Oh, yeah, yes.
supervisor to union. it's a
Yes,
Different
they-
transition, different set of roles.
Right.
What about job description updates, right? You add a duty, you take a duty.
Yes, well, what happens is this, is that that's a good point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. They are part of they can be part of the union. Okay, they can be part of the union. And, in Columbia River, and I don't believe it's the same for the member district, but in Columbia River, while they were part of the union, there was a lot of differences between the single role and the firefighters. The biggest one was that they weren't in the same pension plan. The firefighters were in police and fire, and our single roles were in just a general, public employee retirement system. Okay, so what we did was to facilitate that transitional process, we moved, our single roles into the fire and police public employee retirement system. So now they shared the same retirement system. Okay, so one has one job description, pretty much as being non-entry and things like that. And I believe that the Scappoose Rural Fire District has non-entry firefighter roles. We haven't gone in that direction yet, but we applaud Scappoose for doing something, for doing that aspect, and we'll probably be presenting to the fire, to the commission here, that process. So when we put them all in the same retirement program, now it seemed, and we did that specifically to allow the transition to be seamless. Whereas before, the single roles were in one pension program and the other ones were another pension program. So there was a stark difference. Okay, so while the transition program there existed, that stark difference has caused some questions. Okay, so by putting them in the same, because now they're covered under the same collective bargaining agreement. They're covered under the same pension plan. Okay, so they should be covered under the same rules and regs. And in that's what was the avenue to conduct the transitional process that exists. Does that make sense, everyone?
Chief Medina, I think, when it comes time to actually, have the meeting, we start making these changes, I recommend that we find minutes from previous meetings where this was discussed, have the applicable Oregon revised statutes printed out for everybody to have. Just so everybody makes an informed decision and we're all, singing off the same sheet of music.
Absolutely. In fact, we'll get the ORS statute that identifies that and send it to all the tentative commissioners to review that prior to our January meeting, where we're going to be looking to make we're going to be looking to formalize all these changes that have already occurred. Fair enough? Any questions? Any further questions on this topic from Scappoose?
No.
Constantine?
Because look, I mean, when we're doing the reset, we're trying to pick
Right.
up the pieces here. I mean, we've got the past commissioners dying and in hospice or whatever. But if these are the practices that we're doing based on discussions these guys had back here that were never codified, then it helps to have that all handy where it's like, okay, there we go.
Absolutely. Because again, while these conditions were done under very, very unique circumstances, it does not disallow the fact that they have enhanced our ability to fill positions. And this is now more of a formal request to create an avenue that we can continue to fill positions expeditiously and effectively.
While making sure that we're. within
Yeah,
the
while
realm of
making
what
sure
the
that we're
statute
adhering
is.
to Oregon State statute, absolutely, and being fair and equitable to all individuals that want to seek the process of hiring.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's pretty much all that I have. We can go around and see if anybody else has anything more. Members, district member class tonight, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Fine.
Nope, not at this time. District member Scappoose, do you have anything that you want to add?
No.
Okay, Tammy, you got anything? A lot.
No,
It's
I
new.
do, but I need to read everything. And so I'll reserve for the next.
I
We
appreciate that.
probably will have lots of questions just to clarify.
And that's perfectly fine. And any questions that you have, you can submit them in writing to me. And, I'll coordinate that between the chief examiner and, provide that, and then we can disclose them openly at the next,
Oh, yeah,
at the next board meeting.
totally good, because then it gives you some time to go, oh, yeah, this is the answer to that.
Yeah, that's,
This is the answer to that.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay,
yeah,
sounds good.
sounds good.
Mohammed?
So the only question, Chief Medina, I have is, those single roles and the new one they're transitioning, do they have different job descriptions?
curiosity?
Yes,
qualifications?
they had different job descriptions and different qualifications, yes.
Okay. Is that something is shareable?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We'll just to compare.
Yes, we'll get the job descriptions for single roles, job descriptions for single role EMT, single role paramedic, and for firefighter EMT and firefighter paramedic. We'll get those to you.
You gotta understand, then each district has their own job descriptions too, so. I don't know.
We have very similar, you know, an
Yeah.
engineer one at the city of St. Helens, is a city engineer at Scappoose. It could be engineering associate that, you know, I completely understand.
Well, this is why I welcome your participation,
Yeah.
because you have a perspective that involves working in association, not just with City of St. Helens, but with PUD, with Scappoose, with everything. So having you on the board, I appreciate your volunteering. It's a great asset because of the perspective that you bring to it. I appreciate you for it. Anything from the chief examiner, Scott?
I look forward to working with you guys and moving this, you know, I mean, we're in a difficult spot right now. I know that it's been hard filling positions for literally anybody, especially for this kind of work. So whatever we can do, and you know, I mean, this thing was kind of in limbo for a bit.
Yeah.
But there's a new energy involved and a new sense of purpose, and, you know, we're gonna do this right.
Right, I appreciate that. Chief Sanchez?
No, I appreciate everybody coming. Please, there's food up there, so if you need to take some with you. If you gotta share some when you get back, share some.
Chief Mike? Kate?
All good?
Okay, so everybody understands that you know what, better that, being that Kate is a custodian of record, please direct all correspondences to Kate Linner. You can get her email address on your way out. No other questions, so that this isn't a meeting, so we don't have a motion to adjourn. So it's 3:11, we will be 13:11, so it's 1:11, we'll be adjourning at this point in time. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.